Hey, what's up, you guys? Bloody Jacob here to bring you my weekly review of the CW's The 100. This week we've seen Season 3, Episode 10, which is called Fallen. And, of course, this takes place in the immediate aftermath of last week's, pretty major death. Now it's 2 major deaths so far this season by itself. Of course, that was the death of Lincoln. And, there's been something that's come up out of that recently with actor Ricky Whittle. Apparently the developer of the show, Jason Rothenberg, Ricky Whittle claims that, he bullied him off the show. Wrote Lincoln in a smaller and smaller capacity, not giving him much to do, and just getting to the point of where he had to quit, or just decided to quit, or where he's basically just forced into a position of leaving. And, again, I don't know how true it is. I'm not saying Ricky Whittle's lying or anything like that, but, again, I'm not going to claim that I believe this or that because, I'm not either of them. I didn't work on the show or anything like that. But, yeah, it sucks that Lincoln's gone, but at the same time, it was a well-done scene, and, even Ricky Whittle says with all of this that you should still tune into the show, and I definitely agree with that. Whichever way this is, it's still a great show. There's great people involved. In the story, I still have a lot of faith in the story long term, so don't hate on the show now. Don't do that. Because even if what Ricky Whittle says is true, again, there's still good people involved. This show is still very high quality with a good story. Really good characters are still left. So please just stop with the hate. It's just getting really immature, and we don't want the show to go down because of people reacting to deaths like this, from Lexa to Lincoln. And I know it's frustrating. I know it's tough to take some of these things sometimes, but still. And it is kind of shameful if what Ricky Whittle says is true, but again, let's just enjoy the show, just focus on that. But yeah, overall, this is another very good episode. And there really hasn't been an episode of the season that hasn't been good. There really hasn't been an episode of the series that hasn't been good. But of course, like I said, this episode deals with sort of the immediate aftermath of Lincoln's death. And this also brought more focus back on the A.I. and A.L.I.E. too. And we finally got some pretty good developments with the whole Pike situation with Bellamy and stuff like that too. But we'll get to that in a few minutes. Of course, the episode opens with Octavia, Kane, Miller, and the rest of them, returning to their hideout, and you can just see right away. This scene I definitely recognize from one of the previews that was put out for this season. Octavia just starts hitting Bellamy over and over. Bellamy's getting a bloody nose, blood coming out of his mouth and stuff like that. And of course, just completely frustrated and just done with him over him aligning with Pike, and how that semi led to what happened to Lincoln. It's an understandable reaction, of course, and I think Bellamy knows that too. I did like how they handled the scene with their Miller, and even Kane was gonna step in to sort of stop her. They understood her too, but they didn't want her to beat Bellamy to death or anything like that. But I like how Bellamy just stopped him from pulling her away or something, because it's between them, their sibling relationship and stuff, and he took it, he took it like a champ. Reference to Walking Dead there and Negan. But anyway, not quite to that extreme, but you guys know what I'm getting at if you watch Walking Dead too. But so that was a really good scene. Octavia says, "At the end, you're dead to me." It's going to take a lot to bring any good relationship between them back, but again, we kind of knew this was coming based on the trailer and stuff. And Bellamy sort of takes steps to a more positive light at the end of the episode, but of course it's going to take a lot because Lincoln is someone who is involved with Octavia since season 1, so it's not like it was just a new character this season or something either. Of course, you get more of Murphy helping Ontari, of course, the new commander sort of the Grounders, after she took Aiden's head last week. Again, we kind of get a flirtatious back and forth thing with them two, and Murphy sort of helping her out, giving her ideas. Murphy has a good mind for manipulation stuff too. I don't really like Ontari. I mean, I appreciate that she seems like another strong female antagonist, but at the same time, I kind of want Murphy to keep on going into the redemption direction. But again, Murphy's still more of a wild card at this point too, and I've grown to like him a lot more than I did, like say back in season 1 or something. We get more of Raven resisting A.L.I.E. We'll talk more about that in a minute, because that was, besides hopping between Bellamy and Pike, probably the biggest part of the episode. Maybe the biggest part of the episode, actually, I should say. Long term, it probably will be. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Monty's mom tells him to leave. They sort of have this moment between them where they want to say goodbye to each other, but they can't because it'd be obvious, and Monty would be captured right away. So even though Monty's still kind of siding with Pike, she does want to get her son out of there. Raven comes up with this idea. Oh, I did take my notes, by the way. I always take my notes. Raven comes up with this idea that the wristbands that they originally came to Earth with can actually be used to sort of disrupt the connection AI or A.L.I.E has made with their brain, sort of send a pulse through it and sort of disable it. Basically, I'm probably wording that a little wrong, but you know what I'm getting at. Let's see. Raven's resisting, she's blasting the music, she's repeating things over and over, like parts to a song or a phrase and stuff like that, and, she's just working out, doing all these pull-ups, which is pretty badass. The AI or A.L.I.E just ends up giving her pain back, basically all the trauma she's been through with what happened to Finn, and just everything she's been through since she's been on Earth, and also her injury too, I think. And Raven finally submits. I think really what we've seen a lot of is the flashes of what happened to Finn, and that seemed to really get to her more than anything else. And it was kind of sad to see, but Raven finally gives in, and she submits, at least for now. And A.L.I.E takes over her completely, and that kind of sucked. But I was really happy with Jasper in this episode, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Props to Raven for holding out this on. Damn, even A.L.I.E says, she's stronger than the rest of you. So Ja destroys wristband, after Jasper tries to stop him. Of course, Kane, Octavia, and the rest of them meet up with Jasper, but of course Jasper is captured by Pike. Bellamy ended up being, Bellamy was brought there, being held by Octavia, but Bellamy ends up reversing her hold on him, and Bellamy helps Pike get a hold of the rest of them. And yeah, even though I know most people are rooting for Octavia in this scenario, I thought it was kind of funny how easily Bellamy got out of her little, hold there. So I don't know, that was kind of funny. I still like Bellamy quite a bit, and based off this episode, he's going back into the right direction. Let's see. He gives the location to the cave where they're hiding out. He says the phrase I've heard before: "My sister, my responsibility." And when I heard that, and along with other signs, and after just how damaged she's seen Octavia was, and how she's looking at him, I don't think he could have done anything else. And what I'm about to talk about next. But we'll talk about that in a minute. The A.L.I.E cuts Raven's wrist, and she does this as a way of forcing Abby, to take the chip, and she does. She has to do it to save Raven's life, and she does, but of course now Abby's under the AI's control as well, and that's a major thing because along with Jaha and Abby and Kane, they're probably some of the most influential people on the show, along with Clarke and Bellamy at times, but now the A.L.I.E is really building her group here, and she's pretty much taking over Arcadia. We also get this brutal scene of Ontari gouging out the eyes of the ambassador who is there, and Murphy is trying to tell her about restraint, and hey, she didn't kill him, right? Bellamy, this horn goes off, and Bellamy actually, gets a gun out and holds Pike at gunpoint, and then they make a trade. The Grounders take Pike, and Pike's captured, of course, and Kane sort of questions Bellamy's reasoning for sort of changing his mind there. Was it just for his sister, or was it because he actually believes that Kane and the rest of them are in the right now against Pike? And it really seemed like it's more so to help out his sister. But still, I think in the long run, Bellamy, he's not going to side with anyone else but his sister. So even if he still has his doubts about the Grounders, he's still going to try to go along with her, I think. I think Bellamy's going on the right path right now. It still might be a little bit shaky, but I don't think Bellamy's going to ever turn into like a full-out antagonist or anything. I still think Bellamy's one of our main good-oriented characters. He's just sort of struggling with his own thing. He's still one of my favorites, Clarke being my favorite, of course, and then you have Kane and Bellamy are pretty close for me right now. It still is. Let's see what else. Yeah, Ontari and Murphy. Ontari sort of starts finally coming on to Murphy, and she takes all her clothes off, of course, and Murphy says he's hurting a little bit less, or something along those lines anyway, and Murphy actually ends up resisting her a little bit at first, saying he has someone, and then basically Ontari says, I'm going to kill you if you don't be my sex slave, basically, and do whatever other shit I tell you to do. And so Murphy says the things I do to survive, and then of course they probably had sex after that, so cool, man. Let's see what else. And probably the biggest scene of the episode, Jasper actually ends up escaping with Raven. He injects her something to knock her out while she's under control of A.L.I.E and stuff. And finally we see Clarke show up. She's just coming up to the camp. As Jasper is coming out, he manages to break down the gates with the vehicle. Clarke stops him, and she's very confused. She says she has to talk to Lincoln, because we remember what was going on with her in last week's episode. But Jasper has to quickly tell her Lincoln's dead, and Clarke gets into the car with him. And I was worried that they're all going to be kind of captured and surrounded there, but Clarke gets in time, and she's able to kick off one of Pike's men before he gets into the truck to try and pull Raven off. So that was cool. And so Jasper drives off with Clarke, and Raven's still in the back. So that was a pretty exciting closing. And of course, Clarke has sort of a stare off with her mom, who's also under control by the AI now, Abby. So yeah, I'm really interested to see where the season's going to go now. I'm curious to see what Raven, how Clarke and Jasper are going to deal with Raven, and what they're going to come up with to, do with this now. And I know that Pike is, in Grounder hands. I'm not sure how much longer he's going to be alive either, so I hope he's killed off soon. Like the rest of you, I do. I think Michael Beach, the actor playing him, is doing a pretty good job too, but I do want him to die. Now it seems like the focus might start shifting a little bit more to A.L.I.E being in control of Arcadia, because she says they're moving on to stage 2, so they're probably expanding whatever they're planning. So yeah, this it's definitely getting more sci-fi-ish right now, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they're doing. I'm more excited about the season, even more so than I was last week probably. So yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. Let me know what you guys thought, and again, if there's something I didn't really mention or talk about too much, feel free to leave a comment below. I'd love to talk about more with you guys. And as always, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and MoviePilot, and friendswilled.com. And I'll start saying this at the end of my videos too, just because, I should, like, subscribe, and peace. And voice crack apparently, I guess too, right?